Okay, this video is a quick start for level building and also to address some specific questions from a member. What I've got here is a fairly butchered version of a new map uploaded by a member that had some issues in it. And I will recreate one of the issues real quick. This collision that you can see spiderwebbed across this mesh was not by the default. Whenever you're creating meshes in an outside program, make sure to make a custom collision, or else you will have that great green box that's wrapping around it, and that will be treated as the bounds of the level, and the ball will roll on top of this thing as if it was the only geometry. So if I try to start it this way, I will just die. My character disappears that way. So to demonstrate it, if I get my guy and move him up a bunch, it's still too low. I have to get above the highest platform. So I will start up and fall to my death because I wasn't forward enough. Okay, so here I am rolling on top of the world because that is where that collision is. So if I come back in here and set it to use complex as simple, that means that it finds the exact geometry that was included instead of just wrapping around everything like plastic wrap. If I save that, let me set my player start down on the ground. By pressing the end key, and I should be ready to go. And it's not perfect, it's not as performant, and it also demonstrates why we want to have a modular setup. So we want to have each of these sorts of things, especially simple geometry, built within the engine. So these might be just cubes that you can drop in from the editor, or whenever you make the models, you can import them as separate objects, so you can re-piece it together, or I think it might automatically keep it in this position. So as for the mechanics and other elements that are added to this, it was just a blank mesh with the default lighting, and I have in these directories up here in the world outliner, everything is expanded, so I'll collapse those. These folders I've made, and they can kind of go into every level. I have a couple more things that I didn't add back in. Let me reorganize these sapphires and those platforms. And this switch is going to be, I don't have a folder for it yet. And then this player start is part of my setup. So now everything is set into the types of items that they are. For specific builder pieces, like the disappearing platform here is going to go within that folder. And the setup folder and the lighting folder are kind of unique ones where we have key items that it should be in every map, key lighting items that should be in every map as like this default setup. Definitely welcome to set up the lighting however you want, but we may have some sort of consistency that we want to keep within a world that will develop as we go. So for now, if you're starting with a blank level, let me just create one here so you can see, you have nothing. And as someone who's new with the Unreal Engine, it can be really hard to go from this to something usable. So I'll head back to our map, and you can just, unfortunately it expands all of those every time. You can just take this and copy paste from here into your other map. So let me get off of there, copy, go to my new world, paste, and it's all there. And this will keep all of the post-processing stuff that we have set up. So all of like the different, the scene color that affects the default images as well. So I'll head back to our map one more time, and I think I'll stick around there for the rest of this. You can do that for any items in a map, so you can copy paste the coins or whatever, the platforms, although it's not as nice because it'll keep them in their position. So let's say that this level had been way over here. Obviously, you can tell right away that this is not a good state to be in, where you have to like click and drag everything around. So the setup items, however, I do want on every map, at least until we rearrange what is included in the setup. So you would just copy paste again, or you can take this map and then right click and duplicate it. And that would give you an exact copy from which you can delete items and remake the map however you want. And the idea behind that is that we've got some template maps here after this sprint. So we don't want to do any of this sort of work I'm about to describe. It after this sprint. We will clean up what folders go where and get rid of most of these maps, put them into like a temporary folder. You don't want to mess around with that during the sprint because it will throw everyone's projects out of sync in an ugly way. So we have this hello world as kind of our introductory map, and it's going to change as we add new elements. And then I think it's the test world is kind of a blank scene to develop, or one of these, this template or something, is going to be a map that we keep around so that you can test your developments if you're doing coding and stuff. All right, for real this time, I'll stick around in this map to talk about the rest. That is kind of the world outliner in a nutshell. You can move things around into different folders if you want. I have it set up this way so that I have a real clean structure. Although anytime you click on anything, it expands that folder, which can get pretty annoying, like with the coin, if I can get one. So like all of the coins will expand like that. So that said, these coins, these platforms and stuff, if I hit Control B while I have one selected, it kind of automatically takes me to it. And you won't have this on your project, at least for this sprint, but these folders are color-coded to be for level designers, level builders. Everything is fair game to use, but I would not recommend digging through all of them except for curiosity's sake. You can get rid of this map. So until you're familiar with the engine and the project, I would not mess around with any of those, and most of them are kind of overlap. Like I've got this meshes and there's all these folders, but the pillar mesh is just used in the pillar blueprint, which is where all the code is. So that said, or with blueprints, that is where all of the logic items are. This switch, if I drop it in here, has an effect on the level, whereas if I go back into my meshes and drop in, let's say, something from a level piece, all this does is change the geometry. It doesn't add any logic to the game. So that's the difference between our static meshes and our blueprints. And then the maps, of course, are where we are building our levels. You can create anything you want in this open folder, and then within the production assets, I want everyone to create their own folder, and these will be added to another folder. So it should be no loose maps. They should all have a folder. Everyone is welcome to create their own. So as you start to work on your first maps, you can just create a folder. Your avatar or your real name is good, or anything. Like if I want to make like a swamp world or something, I can name this however I want, and we can always go through and change the way these are working as we go. So it won't hurt anything to mess around with the structure, except that you wouldn't want to, say, drag the samples into that, because then on your copy it's gone, but on mine it's here. When we try to mix them, it all comes together. So feel free to add, but unless you want to deal with repercussions, it's best not to move folders around or delete folders or anything like that. So to kind of dig into what blueprints we have available, I will head over to one of my coins. You can press F or double click any of these things to move around to them. Same if you are just clicking in the browser, helps you find your position in this crazy 3D world. So this was a blank static mesh of a world, and we wanted to see what some mechanics would do to the feel of the space so that it could be further polished. And the match can either end when you reach a finish point, which is one of our setup items. Dun, dun, dun. I seem to have gotten rid of my setup folder, I think. Let's see if I lost the items too. I did. We're going to undo through that. Oh no. Dun, dun, dun. I'll do another map because I need some of those items to demonstrate what I'm doing, and I just won't save this when I add it to online. So let me go back to content maps. We're going to just go into one of these to look at the setup again. Here's that setup folder for this one. Player start is just where you'll spawn. Map setup does not show up in the game. It's just a marker for the builder to know where their item is that controls how the level works. So when I click on it on the details panel on the right, I can look at various settings under OGS Customize, whether or not it's required to have pickups, how many it is. The music that's included, this is preset for every level in this world, and unless we have something organized, I would like to leave these levels it'll leave this song selection for every level. And I think we'll have just a different set of songs for each world, where this world has those songs and they're randomly selected from this array every time you start. So it'll be a different song out of that list every time. The song stuff we don't need to worry about. Level to open is where we go after this level. It can either happen on the setup or on the finish, which is over here, open level. I'll rename that to like level finish or something. So when I click on this one, you can see where I am going under OGS Customize again, always under this category. Level to open is typed in here. And it can be on either one. The idea is that if it's only on the start, then that's where you'll go next. If you have multiple endpoints and you want to have like this one go to level 2, this go to like secret bonus level, I alt click drag to duplicate there. Then this one can say go to bonus, which isn't a real level, and then this one could say go to hub 2 or whatever. So that's why it is in 2 places. Again, the setup has an option to go to the next level. You can override it with these. If this is not blank, then this one is ignored. So you can't mess up by doing both if you want to just cover all your bases. And hooking up the levels is not required for building a level. You can just do the geometry, just do the traps and the pieces, and then a programmer can help you hook up the different pieces that are required to make it fit. This map portal is something I want in every level. It is the way to get to the material selection screen. And you can see there's 2 platforms over here. They will be expanded as the player unlocks different materials and as different materials are developed by us. So some of them will be by default, some of them will be only once the player earns them. And then to go back, you just hit that thing. So the last setup, I've got the map setup. So that is all the setup items. Let me head back to our map, and hopefully I didn't destroy anything more out of here besides the setup items. I've got my disappearing platforms, and I won't go into detail on how each of these works because I do have tutorials on each blueprint building piece that I've made. I think there's actually 1 or 2 exceptions, but they're all pretty much the same once you learn one. They all have this OGS Customize that tells you the characteristics of it. This fall delay, this piece, after you jump on it, it will disappear after however many seconds. And then you can set the material for each item. I do also kind of want these to be uniform, but you can mess around with that, and then you can change whatever mesh you want. These bones are way over there. Let me see if I can find something. So this would be a really goofy mesh or platform, but you can use whatever you want here. I think I made a cool one. These clouds. Other procedural. So this actually won't work, but this item here could be another type of mesh. Anyway, you can customize anything within this category here, and cool. So that is true of these falling platforms. It's true of this moving platform here, where it'll go from point A to point B, and then you have your own customized settings there. And they're pretty straightforward, but we can also refer to the videos or ask another member if there's one that doesn't make sense. Here's the launch pad with its. And then the coins are automatically hooked up to connect to the player and add to its score and stuff. So that will handle all the logic. You just drop them in and they're good to go. The green are worth less than the blue, and there's 2 other colors, so you want to make like the other cool ones harder to get to. And then let's see. Since I'm not going to go into how each of these things works, that might be about it. The different types of blueprints you can use, the different pickups, and the general idea of you either have to get to the end, which is deleted on this one. So you either have to get to the end or you have to collect a certain number of pickups, or both. Our current win conditions, we're developing more. So there might be like a time trial or like a points thing where you have to collect every coin, or you have to not take any damage, whatever. Kind of like Stars in Mario 64, if you remember, where each world will have that kind of setup. This is more of a design thing, but we don't have a real explicit requirement for how these levels look. This one sort of fits with the last one I showed, where is kind of an abstract geometry. We'll save it. And just a lot nicer looking than mine, because these mine I was building as I was building mechanics, and they don't really feel like real spaces, where that one is more finished out. But that's the general look of these, and then we have a couple other themes we're developing that you can see on the Trello and at our meetings. But there isn't, again, like an overall structure. One of the ideas we're tossing around is to have one larger overworld kind of map with each of these sub-maps loaded into, like you would roll into a house in the fantasy world and it would have like an indoor scene, or you would roll into like a path and it would have like a portal that's obvious, and that would take you to a scene between the cities where it's like open area with trees and stuff. Or you would roll into a random spot in town and it's just a town-like scene. It's not one-to-one mapped. Like you roll down the street into an alley and it's that alley. It's just a little more abstract than that, to where this would fit into like a larger abstract scape, but it wouldn't be like a little cutout of a bigger map. It would just be one of the mini destinations. And I think that will allow us to build maybe 4 high quality complicated maps, and then lots of smaller maps that are approachable by newer members and people that are just newer to Unreal in general. I'm going to cut it off here, and I'm sure I've missed some of the points I wanted to grab, but I don't want this to go any longer than it already is. Thanks.